Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is the 5K Q&A. We just hit 5,000 subscribers about 10 days ago or something like that, about a couple of weeks ago. So it's pretty exciting. I put a little community thing up in YouTube, and I've been having some questions roll through from Instagram, and there's a bunch of comments that I've had on some videos that I haven't answered, and I thought I'd just save them for something like this. So done, 5K is done, onwards to the next goal. And recently I've just been putting out lots of short videos because it's all I've really had the time to do. I've been working hard on creating this mentorship and just writing down all my ideas and creating the content for that course. So that's an 8-week course. The link is in the description of this video and all the videos. And it's gonna be really exciting to help new coaches or experienced coaches develop their understanding of weightlifting. You can head to the website, the Weightlifting Mentorship, to learn more, and you'll learn more about the amazing guests that I have planned for the course, as well as all the content we're going to be going through over the 8 weeks. And I think 8 weeks is a sweet spot. There's a bunch of pre-recorded stuff, but there's also a bunch of live lectures each week where we'll go through that together. So if you have any questions, you can shoot me a message on Instagram, or you can book a discovery call as well. There's lots of cool stuff coming up. But as far as the Q&A, let's get into that. So there's a bunch of questions that, like I said, I've been saving up, and I haven't really prepared any kind of responses. They're just a bunch of questions that I have written down here. So the first one was one where I posted a short about triple extension, and I said triple extension is a myth, and then some people commented saying it's not clear enough. So to go back to that, I'm just going to flick to like some slides that I have in one of my courses, and I'll screen record this little section anyway, and I can put that in the video. But yeah, I'll do that now. Sweet, so that's recording. You guys will see that on screen now. So there's just a little graph that I've just picked up from a study, and it was on a Google Images as well. So you can just see the force curve for a power clean. So why I said triple extension is a myth is because a lot of coaches will coach you to stay at the top of the pool for as long as you can. And often what ends up happening is someone's doing a really nice lift and it looks really fast and sharp, and then the coach will be like, no, you need to stay up there. I want to see the extension. And just because you can see a position doesn't mean it's worth coaching or it's worth pursuing. Often if you can see that position, it's probably not a good thing, because we don't want someone staying at the top of the pool. If you stay up there, the bar's going to start coming back down, and as you get under it, it's going to crash on you. What we want to happen is as you extend up, the bar will float up. As you get under, it still keeps moving up, and you will land nicely on your body and you'll meet the bar. Now, if you look at the graph, I've got a little arrow where it says full extension, and you'll see that negative impulse. So I have my mouse and I just kind of wave over this little bit here. So they take the bar off the floor, whatever. Then they get into the second pull, make contact. And then what happens is, what does it say? Landing force. Yeah, so they make contact. There's a negative impulse. So that second pull, when they stop, make contact, not stop, but make contact with the bar. And then they'll finish the pull. When you finish the pull, no new force is being produced. The force just drops. So even though your feet are on the ground, you can see there's still kind of like a little bit of power off the floor, and then they'll land, and the eccentric is receiving the force. So that's something to keep in mind. That's what the graph says. That's what the science says. If you look at a box jump as well, a box jump or a counter movement jump as well, you'll see the same thing. So like once they do their extension, they're in the air, they're not producing any more force. It's what happened before then. So what happened before that, or what happens before then, is so critical. So that's the delaying knee extension, and that's really, really important. But that's why I have that slide in there, just to go over triple extension and the fact that, yeah, it is a bit of a myth. So if you don't see it, it's not a big deal. If you do see it, it's not affecting the lift, not a big deal as well. Sometimes it's not really worth pursuing. So that's the first question. That's out of the way. Next one was someone commented on YouTube and on Instagram, and I thought that was a good little question to build on, and I just did like a quick reel on it. But it was Snatch tutorial, how to get the bar into the power position. So I think what kind of rephrasing that question is, a lot of people try and extend all at once, and there's a short I made not long ago, but it was pretty much saying how as soon as people get to the mid-thigh, as soon as people pass the knee, they'll just like do everything. They'll just shrug, straighten their knees, straighten their hips, stand up all at once. What we really want to do is something that's a little bit more segmented. So you'll see how a deadlift is very different to a clean. If you've been doing weightlifting for any amount of time, you'll know that this is true. So the mechanics of the pull are a little slightly different because obviously we're going to try and propel the bar up. That's a chopper. The mechanics of the pull are slightly different because we're trying to do propulsion. We're not trying to just stand up with the weight and use different muscle groups to leverage us into that position. What we're trying to do is keep our knees bent for as long as we can and then thrust that bar straight up. So that's a big difference between the Olympic lifts and just a regular deadlift. So if we can keep our knees bent for as long as we can, that's going to make a huge difference. So as far as the tutorial and how to get the bar to that position, there's a number of ways you can say it in any amount of cues and whatnot. I'll try and avoid saying things like using internal cues like, focus on, your knees being at 30 degrees or shit like that. I'll try and say things that are very, that are more open to the person's interpretation. That's why I'll typically use constraints like a slow tempo pull, and people will typically end up in the right positions anyway. If you give someone tempo or a pause, they'll be able to adjust their position and adapt to this new movement, this new exercise. So that's something that I think is worth noting. If you can try and go down a path where using a progression like a tempo or a pause, it's probably going to highlight a lot of things in your lifting that you may be lacking. So it's going to help you with your lifting. So that's the power position. Cool. Next up, there was a comment from one of the subscribers. I'm just pulling that up now. So Sanjay says, "Sir, also want to learn these awesome lifts. I can barely lift 70 kilo clean and jerk, and I can't go heavy because the gym is for public purpose and I can't drop the weights there. My snatch practice is so bad. Could you give me some tips so that I can safely practice without dropping the weights? If I regularly do it for 2 years, can I achieve a good physique and strength along with hypertrophy?" So if you do lifting for 2 years, you'll certainly make some gains. Definitely, you'll be getting a little bit more jacked than you were 2 years ago. That's depending on how hard you train. But let's unpack some of this stuff. So training weightlifting at a commercial gym is pretty challenging. So I'm fortunate enough that I have my own facility and I can do whatever I want here. But even still, we can get complaints about noise from dropping weights and stuff like that. Snatching is a good one because it's obviously going to be a lot lighter than your clean and jerk. So I find it pretty easy to lower it down if I had to lift super heavy and I couldn't drop weights. But there's definitely quite a lot of skill involved in the lift. So safely without practicing or dropping the weights, I would just say start with just some power snatches and just learn how to do some power snatches or some hang snatches. You can get quite a lot out of just doing some snatch pulls if you're doing them correctly, if you're using your legs to do them. So I would say your program's mostly going to be made up of pulls and squats and just some muscle snatches, some power snatches. What I find is when people are beginners in their first learning, as they're lowering down the weight, they'll tend to like arc it in front of them and keep their arms dead straight. What we're after is trying to kind of turn the bar over and catch it in the hips or, catch it in that hip crease so it doesn't feel, it's kind of like your re-rack for the jerk. When you've done it badly and you catch it on your body and it like crushes your spine. If you've ever done that, it feels terrible. So yeah, if you do time it well, it feels weightless and you absorb the force at the right time and you yield all that weight. So learning how to yield in a snatch where you catch it in your hip crease, no matter what the weight is super important. So I would get you to understand how to yield and catch that weight in the hips, and that's going to make a big difference. And then if you regularly do it for 2 years, yeah, definitely. If you do some weight training for 2 years, you're going to have a great physique. If you do some moderate volume and you progress the loads and you change out exercises when they get stale, there's heaps of free programs online that you can follow along with. There's one I have on my website, so you can suss that out. And hypertrophy pairs really well with pretty much anything, but it works really well with weightlifting. And there's definitely some accessories that obviously can plug into these sessions. So that hopefully that answers that question. I didn't ramble too much. We'll keep going through the questions. Where are we? Okay, so Scott asks, Curious why some weightlifters wrap the lower knee joint only. Hard to find info on it. Guessing they're looking for support and protection for the patella tendon without restricting knee flexion by wrapping the quad as well. So no amount of wrapping or any kind of equipment is going to protect your joints or protect your joints. You can definitely get quite a lot of tension from using wraps. So if you just wrap the whole knee, obviously you can get quite a lot of tension from that, and that's going to help you stand up. But that's not something that's super, super common in, there's only a handful of lifters that really wrap their knees. Most of them just have like some cloth wraps that aren't really doing a whole lot compared to, say, powerlifting, where they got, quite thick wraps and they're can't speak. They literally can't walk. So that's something that's very different in weightlifting. You can let alone walk, let alone do dynamic movements like weightlifting. So wrapping the lower knee joint only, sometimes you just see tape or a little bit of cloth, and it probably just feels nice for the person, and that's probably why they do it. I don't know if it's doing a hell of a lot for anything. It's kind of like kinesiology tape, that skin stretch and that heat on the skin is, this is something that Jordan Shallow actually said in a podcast where he was talking about people not understanding the mechanisms of why we do foam, like why people do foam rolling and it feels good. It's like, it doesn't break down the scar tissue, but it sure as hell it sure as hell makes you feel better. And the reason why he was saying why it works is because you have these mechanisms. There's so many mechanisms, but there's some receptors the receptors for skin stretch and for heat, and skin stretch and heat travel faster than pain. So if someone's got really sore knees, weightlifters usually have pretty sore knees. They're pretty beat up, especially at the elite level. So something like that might just stretch the skin, and it might just make their knees feel like they're in a little bit less pain. But that's that. I don't tape my knees or use knee sleeves or anything like that. So I take it for what it is. Now, someone said, how to program when you only want to improve your snatch and I'm training 5 days a week. Or training 5 days a week. Training to just improve your snatch. So I would probably work out what's the maximum amount of volume that you can do. So single lift events or single lift goals. So if that's your primary outcome is you want to improve your snatch, you only want to do that. That's your main thing. So we want to work out how much volume can we put into that one lift. If you've been doing snatches twice a week at the moment, that's kind of your maintenance level. You could probably go to 3 days if you wanted to, but if you're making gains on 2 days, I probably wouldn't mess with it too much. I'd probably just get you doing a day of plyometrics as the fifth day. So if I was to structure this person's training, say our primary outcome or primary goal is the snatch, well, qualities that are going to improve the snatch are obviously going to be doing a hell of a lot of pulls, obviously going to be doing some squatting. Everything else is going to be building on that. You can do virtually anything you want. At least 2 days of plyos. Really good plyo programs. If you head to Plyos Plus, you're going to learn quite a bit about plyometrics. And Matt McKinney's Watson is on Instagram. That's his Instagram. He's going to be in our mentorship. So if you're interested in learning from him, you can learn from him there. He's also got a plyometric course, which is great. And you guys will learn a little bit about that in his course. And you'll be able to understand how you can integrate plyos into programs all year round. But I would be having some plyos thrown in there. And then because you're doing 5 days, you'd probably want to be doing a little bit of machine work just so you're not copping as much fatigue, but you can still train your legs. As long as your shoulders and elbows aren't getting too beat up from snatching regularly or 2 to 3 times a week, as much as you feel like you can handle. I'd be having the sessions at least 1 day a week where you're building to something relatively heavy, say like a heavy double, 2 to 4 sets, and then a day where you're doing some powers. Obviously, you want to be working on some snatch pulls in that time where you try and overload that position and you overload that pull. You can do them off blocks. You can do them off a deficit. You can do them, depends on what you're struggling with and where you struggle with. If you find your power snatch is stronger than your snatch and you're lagging in that area in a full snatch, well, obviously you're going to want to try and bias a little bit more to a block full snatch or something like that, where you have to be more reactive and you're going to be forced to get under it a little bit quicker. And working on cues where maybe you're landing in a cutoff position, so you're landing only in a half squat rather than a full depth squat, or in a high power snatch, so you're using a cutoff variation. Obviously, it's going to depend on how you lift. I don't know how you lift. But yeah, those are the things I'd be doing, and obviously just keeping all the bodybuilding stuff in there that you enjoy, or whatever other movements you enjoy. But that's how I structure it. I don't really have a lot of people on 5 days. I mainly have people on 4 days, 4 days of training. But yeah, that's that. So these are the questions that I had. We'll leave it at that for today. If you have any other questions, feel free to pop them in the comments on this video. Hopefully I answered some of these questions as best as I could. I didn't have any notes prepared. I just wanted to talk to the camera candidly. Muddled up my words a few of those times at the end, but that's that. Thank you so much for subscribing and for following along. It's been a pretty cool journey. Hopefully we can keep building on the content, and I'll keep putting these videos out as often as I can. Like I said, I've been doing a lot of shorts lately. If you want to learn more about weightlifting, follow the links in the description, or you can suss out the other videos on the channel and learn a bunch more from the ones that I've created. Thank you so much, and I'll see you guys in the next one.